This instructional video is to be used only as a training aid. It is not intended as a replacement for the operating instructions or repair manuals. Installation operations should be performed by properly trained personnel. Before beginning any no-blow installation or repair procedure, be sure to read, understand, and follow the operating instructions in the manual. And remember, always use genuine Mueller parts and always use the appropriate safety equipment. This video training module will illustrate the maintenance and repair procedures using Mueller's H-17010 valve changer.
Mueller Company, recognizing the need for a safe, effective means of replacing worn and obsolete meter valves, developed the no-blow valve changer. The no-blow valve changer permits an existing meter valve to be removed and replaced with a new one. Also, if necessary, it permits the worn threads of a service pipe to be cut off and the pipe to be rethreaded. Either operation can be done under full line pressure with no gas blowing into the atmosphere. The no-blow valve changer consists of a safety clamp and various sizes of plugging units for the different sizes of Mueller gas valves. The safety clamp has a clamp bar, pipe clamp, rear shaft tube clamp, front shaft tube clamp, and 2 shaft clamp positioning sleeves. The plugging unit has a rubber plug, shaft tube, shaft crank, and a stuffing box. The stuffing box slides back and forth on the shaft tube, and an O-ring located in the stuffing box makes a pressure seal between the two. The stuffing box has a bleeder valve and a bleeder ring, sealed by 2 O-rings. The no-blow valve changer may be used to remove and replace any half-inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/4 inch, 1 1/2 inch, or 2-inch round or straightway meter valve that will permit the plugging unit to pass through it. The meter valve must have iron pipe outlet threads. There are valve changers designed for Schedule 40 pipe and others designed for Schedule 80 pipe. Both sets are available in all sizes and have a maximum working pressure of 60 psi. Mueller's new SureStop valve changer is also available in a 3/4 inch size. There is also a 1/2 inch CTS plugging unit which will stop off polyethylene pipe at 60 psi in meter risers. The plugging units and clamp can be purchased in kits or individually. Each unit comes with an instruction manual. The H-17010 includes the 3/4 inch, 1 inch, and 1 1/4 inch plugging units, shaft cranks, replaceable rubber plugs, 2 lengths of locating pins, and the safety clamp. To replace a meter valve, select the proper safety clamp and plugging unit according to the size of the valve and the schedule of the pipe. Place the shaft crank on the shaft tube and free the rubber plug by turning the shaft crank alternately clockwise and counterclockwise. Inspect the plug before use to be sure it is not damaged. If so, the plug must be replaced. The rubber plug is natural rubber and should be lubricated with Mueller rubber stopper lubricant. Ordinary grease or oil will deteriorate the natural rubber. Lubricate the machined surface of the stuffing box with lubricant and slide the bleeder ring back and forth to lubricate the O-rings. When sliding the bleeder ring, always give it a turn at the same time so as not to clip the O-rings. When the plugging unit is ready, close the meter valve and remove enough piping to give access to it. Be sure to purge the gas from the line in an accepted manner before removing the piping. Close the bleeder valve on the stuffing box and thread the stuffing box into the meter valve. Now, open the meter valve and align the key with the service pipe. Place the pipe clamp on the service pipe so that the short locating pin is just touching the inlet end of the meter valve. The longer locating pin is only used when cutting or rethreading the pipe is necessary. Tighten the pipe clamp hand tight. Position the shaft tube clamps in the middle of the shaft position sleeves and place the top shaft clamp on the shaft tube loosely. There is a small arrow in the shaft tube which should be placed in line with the key of the meter valve. This will align the rubber plug so that it will pass through the meter valve and into the service pipe. Place the crank on the end of the shaft tube and push the shaft tube down until the tapered part of the tube is just below the clamp vise. Tighten the clamp vise hand tight. The rubber plug will now be in position to make a shutoff. Before expanding the rubber, remove the crank and count the threads that are exposed. This will be the stopping point when relaxing the rubber later in the procedure. Now, replace the shaft crank and turn the shaft crank slowly in a clockwise direction until the threaded shaft of the plugging unit is flush with the shaft crank sleeve. This should effect a shutoff. Test for a shutoff by turning and sliding the bleeder ring forward. There should be a small amount of gas exhausted from the stuffing box and the meter valve. If the flow continues, a shutoff has not been made. Continue turning the crank one turn at a time until a shutoff is effected. The plugging unit will be expanded to its limit when the threaded portion of the shaft tube projects beyond the sleeve approximately 1/2 inch. Do not apply excessive torque to the shaft crank, as this may damage the unit. When the shutoff is made, unthread the meter valve from the service pipe and slide the stuffing box with the meter valve attached back along the shaft tube. Position the bottom shaft tube clamp on the shaft tube so that the clamp is directly above the tapered shoulder on the plugging unit. Remove the shaft crank. Loosen the top clamp and swing it out of the way. The stuffing box and the meter valve can be removed from the shaft tube by sliding them off the end. Be careful not to drag the O-rings in the stuffing box over the exposed threads. Remove the stuffing box from the old valve. Attach it to the new one. Open the meter valve. Slide the stuffing box and the new meter valve onto the shaft tube, again being careful not to drag the O-rings over the exposed threads. Attach the top shaft tube clamp back onto the shaft tube. Then remove the lower shaft tube clamp. Clean the threads of the service pipe and install the new valve using pipe thread sealant. It may not be possible to align the new valve in the same position as the old one and get a pressure-tight connection. If this happens, the arrow on the shaft tube must be realigned with the key of the new valve once the rubber is relaxed. This will position the rubber plug so that it will pass through the valve. Twist and close the bleeder valve. Place the shaft crank on the shaft tube and relax the rubber by turning the crank in a counterclockwise direction. Continue until the number of exposed threads on the shaft is the same as at the start of the procedure. Now, align the arrow with the valve key. There is a tendency for the gas pressure to force the plugging unit out of the service pipe. To control this, hold one hand against the shaft crank and loosen the top shaft tube clamp with the other hand. Slide the rubber plug back through the valve and into the stuffing box. Close the meter valve and relieve the pressure from the stuffing box by opening the bleeder valve. Remove the stuffing box from the meter valve and remove the pipe clamp. When the no-blow valve changer has been removed, the valve connection can be checked for leaks. Then the piping may be replaced and the new meter valve opened to put the line into service. Clean off the rubber plug and store properly. The no-blow valve changer has been used to remove an existing meter valve and replace it. This was done under full line pressure in a no-blow manner, safe and controlled, with no gas blowing into the atmosphere.
This completes our training video on the maintenance and repair procedures using Mueller's H-17010 valve changer. All of us at Mueller Company appreciate your interest in our products. For more information, please call our customer service center at 1-800-798-3131. This presentation is part of a continuing series of training and instructional videos from Mueller Company. Mueller instructional videos are to be used only as training aids. They are not intended to replace the operating instructions or repair manuals. All installation operations should be performed by properly trained personnel. Before beginning any no-blow installation or repair procedure, be sure to read, understand, and follow the operating instructions in the manual. And remember, always use genuine Mueller parts, and always use the appropriate safety equipment.